Hi guys, and welcome back. So I'm back at the Spectrum that came in for the track repair for the RAM Select that has slowly gone down a rabbit's hole. So I'm going to take you on the journey of what I've done and what I am up to, and we're going to try and fix, I think, which is the problem. So if you want to join me on the journey, grab yourself a drink, a snack or two, and that favourite comfy old chair, and let's get on with it. Right guys, so it's been a little bit since I did some work on the Spectrum. I had other things to do, unfortunately, and as I was saying, I was doing some recording for my second channel that I'm doing that'll be coming out at the end of the month, sort of starting at the end of the month, on hardware for the Spectrum video, and there'll be a video dedicated to each piece of hardware, and it's going to be in the timeline of when they were released, or roughly around then. But anyway, more on that to come. But the Spectrum, I've finally made some headway. I've got the diagnostics cartridge to work, and it's throwing me up errors on the screen now. I can get it to go through the test cartridge ROM on here to make sure that it wasn't a fault with this. What I did is I put the same image 4 times on the ROM, because it can hold up to 416K images. I just wanted to do that to make sure no matter which one I selected, I was selecting one of the 16K pages, and that wasn't giving me an issue of the size of the ROMs. So I did that and put it on here, and it runs through. I get garbage on the screen, and I can read it, but it's not very good. I can show you it anyway. But what I have found is that looking online, people have had similar sort of problems. It's generally been IC4 or IC5 that are the issue. The other thing I found with this Spectrum, if I lift it off, I'll take the keyboard out. The other thing I found with this Spectrum is the mod they did over the side here was just a wire. And then they had a resistor from over here off of a resistor going through the back one down to the board. I don't know what that was all about. I've not seen that before. So what I've done is I've disconnected all that stuff, and I've just taped it all up to make it safe and out the way. What I've done is I've put the capacitor mod on here. I'm going to check what the video looks like, and if the video looks okay, I'm going to leave it. If it looks a bit dark, I will do the transistor mod on here, which brightens the image up a bit. You can't do the transistor mod if you're going to keep the RF. If you're going to get rid of the RF and go with composite, then you can put the transistors in to boost up your brightness on the image. There is also another project out where you can actually remove the modulator and put in an S-video. So if you want S-video, we can do that. Something I may look at doing. They're only cheap little boards, and there's only a few components. There is a through hole and there is a surface mount. The difference being is the through hole, you got to be careful with the depth of the pins that they don't short out on the Spectrum board, because it replaces where the modulator sits, and it sits exactly in the same place with the S-video where the composite RF out is. So, and where there's 2 holes underneath, you can actually put in some 2.5 M2.5 bolts and a couple of nuts and bolt it in there. I was actually thinking, if you're gonna do that, get the nylon ones, and then you don't have to worry about shorting or anything like that. And they're relatively cheap, and you can get them on AliExpress and places like that. Might be something I'd look at doing on my one, putting an S-video mod into it. I may not. Not a lot of people have S-video. I think I'll just put mine to the composite mod, and I think that'll be fine. So yeah, so I was looking online, and apparently it said that the fault is going to be either S3 or S4, to do with the, I think they said the multiplexing of the lower RAM or something, or something along those lines. So I'll have to put my glasses on so we can have a look at which one it is, and then we will have a look at replacing them. See if I've got them. I should do. Okay, from what I can see, there is no 5 around there. There is the 4, which is this one, and there is 3. So it must be 3 and 4 they're talking about. Because we go 23, 24, 25, 26, and then 4 and 3. So those must be the 2 they're talking about. They're the 2 that are not socketed on this board. The others are. So it looks like I'm going to have to look at replacing those. People have said it could be one of these RAMs. I don't think so. When I plug the cartridge in, I let it go, and it goes all the way through and comes to the menu screen. So it's not picking up bad RAM, but the screen is garbage. If I go into the menu to the extra RAM tests and tell it to do a check, then it comes up with a fault on 3. Well, I think it's 3. I don't think it'll be 13, because I don't think it's a 13, is there? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Oh, it could be 13. It could be 13 down the end here. It could be that. It could be bringing up 13. I should plug that test ROM in and give it another run and see if it comes up with a different error. If it does, then it's probably 3 that's got a problem, I'd say, rather than 13. But we'll give it a go. We'll give it another try and see, shall we? Plug you in. Plug you in. Right, I'll have to put the keyboard in because I have to select what I want to do. And this has one of the new keyboard membranes in it, so it's not one of those horrible ones that are very brittle. Right. Okay, so what we can do, turn you on, let the screen warm up. And what I'll do is I'll spin you around so you can see the screen. Unfortunately, you're going to get that distortion, so there's not a lot I can do with that, guys. And as I said, you can see it's the corruption on the screen. And there it says RAM's passed. So now if I go into the extra RAM test, which is 5, I can only just make this out. And what we do is there's upper or lower or block, back to menu. I'll do number 1, see what we get from that. That's just continually going around and around and around. So I'm trying number 4. So I'll leave you up there so you guys can see what's going on, and just let this go through its checks and see what it comes up with. It came up and said that it had passed. I've just done a reset. I have a reset button on this cartridge as well. And these are very, very basic cartridges, and so if anybody wants one, I'm probably going to... I've got a few of these boards that I ordered in, and they're very, very simple. So if anybody wants one, I'll have some of these available. That was the beeper test, and that all passed fine. The two 157s that were in here, which was the IC3 and 4, I thought, well, I'll pull one out and check it, but then I got to muck around reheating the board up and possibly causing more issues. So I thought, no, I'll take them both out at the same time. So I've got them both out. I put two new ones in. These are the old ones. So I'm going to see if it plays up. Now, if it doesn't play up, I can try each one of these to find out which one of them is faulty. Alright, so I'm going to fire up now and let's see what we have. Well, that's a lot better. There we go. So we've got a list of them here. We've got 11, 10, 7, 6, 27, 28. So, okay. So, we have quite a few errors in our chips apparently. So, what we're going to do is I will fire it up again and I will grab a pen and we'll write down what they are and go from there. Okay. It's 11 and 10. 7 and 6, so we got 11, 10, 7, 6, 22, 21, 27, 28, 22, 27, 28, 1 and 2, got those. Alright, so we'll just do that again and see what the others are. There's two at the very beginning and I can't read what they are. It says 3 and 4 on the 3 plus, sorry, so that's not 3 plus. This is us here. So we're 7, 6, 10 and 11 are the ones they reckon it is. 7, 6, 10 and 11. Okay, so those are the ones. So those sound to me like they're the RAM chips, alright? So we'll switch this off and we will take the keyboard off and check it. But I'm pretty sure those are going to be RAMs. Let's put some eyes on. Six, 7, 10, 11. So it's those four it reckons. It reckons this one, this one, this one, and this one. So I reckons half of the bottom RAM has got a fault in it. I don't know if I have enough 4116s. Now there is a trick you can do. If you've got 4164s, you can rewire them so you only use the bottom half of the, or the bottom part of the memory, and 16K. By 1 bit. So what we can do is we can rearrange it, and the good thing with that is we don't have to worry about -5 and 12 volts. It only uses 5 volts on those, and it's just a couple of wires we've got to jerry rig around, I think, to get us to the 4116s. So I think that might be another way to go, because I don't think I've got any 4116s here. I've only got the 64s, I don't have any 16s. But I'll have a hunt and see what I can find. But failing that, I think that's where we're going to have to look. Definitely. Alrighty. So that's where we're up to. So at least we're making headway with this one. And we're getting to the nitty gritty with it. So for something that was such an easy mod over the back here, has now come into, it started working and then fell over. I suspected down here, but I wasn't getting those errors before I replaced these two. I was getting corruption. It was saying, no, everything is fine. So whether one of these two was faulty to start with, who knows? So, but these two are brand new, and I mean I can put them in the component tester and check them. I have checked all these before, and they all tested fine. So I don't think it's either of these two now. I'm pretty sure you'll find it'll be over here in this lower part of the RAM. So, which is a real pain, because there's 4 of these I've got to take out, and then it's like, hopefully there's none of the others start playing up after that with the heat that's got to go into the board. We will see. Hey guys, so getting a few weird issues on this, and it tends to be looking at the RAM. Before I go down that track, I am picking it's the RAM but something else as well, because I put my 74LS 157s in, and I have 8 brand new ones. If I put a pair of mine in here, I get RAM errors. Doesn't matter which pair I put in there of mine, I get RAM errors. If I put the originals back in, I get none. One of my chips, if I put it in with one of the original ones, I still get none. But if I put in a pair of mine out of the other 7, I get errors. So I'm picking that, even though it tests good, there may be an issue with it. And there could be an issue with those chips as well, those 2 chips as well. So, as you saw in the last video, I went through and marked the 4 chips it says it is. I don't have any 4116s. I've ordered some, but I don't have any. I do have 4164s. So, what I'm going to do is what they call a RAM mod. I'll just move me chips out the way. So, you're going to need some wire wrap wire, or the wire which has the insulation on it that's hard to burn off, and some solder, of course, and your soldering iron. And there's 2 ways you can do this. You have to put sockets, well, you don't have to, most people do, put sockets in the RAM where the RAM's faulty on the board. And rather than destroying a 4164, what I've decided to do is you can either jumper a 4164, put it into a second socket, and then put it into the board. And this is just for testing. That's not going to stay like that. Or you can make up a socket like a standard socket, and where you bridge the 4164 across the back here, you can actually bridge the base of the socket and then bend over the leg that doesn't go into the socket on the board. Because all the pins on the socket on the board go to it, so if anyone wants to put a standard 4116 into it, it'll work. The 4164s, they don't use pin 1, and so to get around that, what you do, or what I've done, is the socket I'm going to use to carry the chip, I just push it up and pop that pin out, a bit like I did with the edge connector. And then when you plug your RAM chip in, it doesn't go through the whole socket to the bottom, so it doesn't actually make electrical connection. And I originally bridged the back of this RAM with a wire from pin 8 to pin 9, and then I sort of thought, well, if I could do that with the front, it should work with the back. And I was going to push the pin out and then run it across the top, and I thought, no. And I bent the pin around, and what you can do is just, as I was going to do on this one, is wire wrap wire is very, very fine, and so is the stuff for doing track repairs on PCBs is very fine. It's better because it's enamel coated, and if you heat it up long enough it burns the enamel off so you can solder it. Whereas the wire wrap wire doesn't take a lot of heat because it's a plastic, it just starts melting. But I don't think we'll need much at the back here to worry about it shorting on anything. So I've just bared a little bit of it, and I'm just going to solder it across the back there. So that's the two ways you can do it. And what I'll do is I'll put some information up here showing you what you do. If you want to do it how they do it, the down and dirty way, which is they generally, if not using a socket, they'll cut pin 1 off because you don't use it anymore. And then you bend up pin 8 across to pin 9 and solder it on. That's it. Then you solder it into the board and you have a 16K by 1 RAM chip that only uses 5 volts. It doesn't use the 12 or the -5. And in some ways, it's not as dear as the 4116 RAM. It is cheaper to buy the 4164s than is the lower value RAMs. So I mean, if you've got faulties, you could wire them all this way, replace them, put them in. A lot of people say, oh, but it's a waste of a good RAM chip. But if they're cheap and plentiful and less likely to fall over and die, I would go that way. But it's a preference thing. I mean, you could do it this way, and then when you got the proper ones in, then take them out, plug them in. There are people who have made little boards for these, and you plug a 6164 or 4164 into a socket on a board that then plugs into the socket, which I think just adds a bit more complexity to the whole thing. I think this would be easier. And if you were going to just use these and not go for the 4116s, then cut that leg off, bend that up and over, solder it, and if you want to, put them in the board. Because I wouldn't say you'd have to pull them out because they're just too reliable compared to the other ones. The only time you'd have to pull them out is if you had a dead short through the board. But you could do that and pop these straight into the board, and yeah, away you go. Something to think on, guys, but I'm only doing these as a test to find out if it is the RAM in here or whether it is something else. So I will be putting 4 sockets into the board, which I have here, and I'll be popping those 4 RAMs out and putting these sockets in, testing it, and hopefully that goes fine. It could have gotten corrupted or damaged when he was doing the traces at the back for the RAM, maybe. I don't know. It could be just age. So guys, anyway, I'm going to solder this wire in and then put these 2 aside, because then, as I said, I just got to pop out pin 1 on this, and then I can just plug it into a standard one of these sockets. And then I can then just put a standard. I don't have to mod a 4164. I can just put it straight in. Alrighty. So I'm going to get on and do that. There's no need for you to sit around and see me doing this. You've seen me desolder and put sockets in before. So I'm going to go and do all that, and then we'll be back where I've had these 2 modded sockets. I've already modded this one, and I've taken pin 1 out of it, so there's no pin 1 in it. And I've taken pin 8 out of it, because I was going to take pin 8 out of it, wire that across, then I don't have to worry about bending that pin out of the way. And after that, then I thought, no, why didn't I just do this one? And then I don't have to muck around munting any of my 4164s with wires across the top of them or that. I can just pop a standard one into that socket. So that's what I'm going to do. I'll leave this one as is. I do have quite a few 4164s, so I'll leave that one like that for a tester, and this one I'll do another socket so I can have a pair. And then when I put a pair in, if those pair go away on the test, then I know that's exactly what it is, and I can try the next pair and see if it gets rid of those ones. And if it does, then I know exactly where my fault is. So when the RAM turns up in a couple of weeks, I can then put it in the machine and we'll be all done and dusted with it. I don't want to put modded ones in his machine because it wasn't modded when I got it and I haven't asked him. So I will put originals back in. And yeah, it's up to him if he wants to put modded ones in it later on. If they do play, the others play up, he can go down that track if he wants to. Alright guys, so yeah, that's all there is to it. So what I'm going to do is take these other ones out. I will solder the socket first, the bridge wire on it, and pop pin 1 out. And then what I will do is desolder the ones out of this board. I'll see you when I come back. Right guys, so I've got the sockets in. Sorry, I've got my magnifying glass over the top of that. So I've got the 4 sockets in. And as I say, if you're going to do any of this sort of work, or quite a bit of this sort of work, get yourself a desoldering gun and a hot air rework station. And you'll see that in my tools videos that I've got there. I've got a Pros Kit SS331 as my desoldering station, and I have a Hands Kit 909D Plus, which is a 4-in-1, and that's a hot air desoldering station, a soldering station, a basic power supply which will do I think 15 amps, 15 volts at about 3 amps maximum, and it also has a USB port in it as well. So those are the main things you really want. If you're going to do a lot of this sort of work, you need it to work on these old boards, because these old boards are not very forgiving when you try to take things out. Alright, and I've talked about that in the past as well. The other thing you want to make yourself is, if you're testing power supplies or anything, is the light bulb tester that I have in my tools section as well. And that's something you can make yourself. And it's a handy bit of kit because it works like a resistive load, so you don't blow fuses when you're trying stuff. Alright, but have a look at that and see how you go from there. Other things after that, you can just add on tools as you go. A good magnifying glass. Now this one is a cheapie I got off Temu, and it has an option in it. You can turn the light on and off, but you can also brighten it up and dull it down, and it also has colour modes. So I can change it to a yellow, a more of a red, or a blue light, depending on what I'm looking at, which is really good when you're looking at certain things on here. Like the blue light's really good for looking at tracks on these green boards. And I use that just to check all my traces to make sure they're all okay. But that's on a gooseneck swivel. They're not that dear to buy. So put that up and out of the way. So that's our board all done, and we've got our sockets here. The one thing I hate with these early boards is when they put these RAM chips in, they used to bend the pins on a bit of an angle like that. And so when they soldered them in, then trying to get them out is a real pain. You've got to, basically with your soldering iron, is re-tin all old solder and try and bend the pin straight as you're going along, because otherwise they're diabolical to get out and you're liable to tear tracks. But these are all the old RAM chips, so what I can do is I can straighten all these pins and pop them back into the sockets and see if these all work fine, or as they used to. So I will do that. I'll pop all these back into here, and we'll see if we get these RAM errors coming up on the board still. And if we do, then what I can do is I can pop out 1 or 2 at a time and change them with the ones I've made. And I don't need the keyboard plugged in for it to do the basic test. So if it does the basic test with my chips in it, it's going to come up with errors. And if it doesn't come up with errors with my chips in it, then it's going to prove that the original ones were faulty. The 74LS157s were faulty. And so was the RAM. Sorry guys, it's a little bit hard to talk and do this sort of thing at the same time without munting a pin or two. Trying not to. Right, but I'm picking that these are probably dead. or have faults in them. Right. And of course, when you test these, your plus 5 volt is the back one down here. Then I think it is your 12 volts and then your minus 5, or it'll be your 12 and your minus 5. I'm not sure which way around they go. I'm pretty sure that this is your 12s down this side and your plus 5s on that side and your minus 5s up the top. Alright, so what we will do, so we'll plug this in. We will put this into a case, or into a base, I should say. We will put a video signal connector onto it. Everything's plugged in and down. And what I've been using is I've got an old video card heatsink and fan, but I want the heatsink. I'm just sitting that on top of the ULA, because I want it on top of there to try and keep it cool, because they do have a tendency of overheating and dying. You can get heat sinks to go onto these, but you got to pull a socket out, solder it into the board, and then put the heat sink on, which I'm not about to do. So I'm just sitting this on here because I've not got the keyboard in, sitting it on here, put the power in, turn the screen on up here behind me, and see if I get the same error. If I get the same error, then that's going to tell me that it's probably one of these chips, and if it is, then I'll change it. Okay, and so it went through that whole thing, and it turned around and said that all the RAM is fine, upper and lower. I am still getting corruption on the screen, so I take it to be these 157s are faulty. So what I'll do is I'll power this off, and I'll replace those, and then we will see that it will turn around and tell us that there are 4 RAM chips faulty in this. Okay, turn this back on now. And it reckons it's IC7 that's faulty and the others aren't. So 7's one of the ICs that I've socketed. So what we can do is then we can power this off, and we'll just change IC7. And that, since now we've made that modded socket with the RAM in it, we can pop that one in. So this is the first one that I did with the bridge across the top and with no pin 1 in the socket. And as you can see, this is why you won't be able to leave these in the board, because they'll be too high. Alright, so we'll give this another try. So that's gone through, and now it said that IC11 is faulty. Okay, and so 11 is the opposite one. Yep. And so I've got the second one here, so I will replace number 11. And the image is actually getting better as we go along. Now, hopefully this one will work as good as the other one, because I a bit worried about that actually touching underneath there, so I might want to put a little bit of something in there. Not sure what yet, but I will find something. Maybe a little bit of tape under it, just to stop it shorting on the pin. And it's only that very end socket that I I don't want it shorting on the header that goes into. So I mean, if I had some hot glue or something like that, I could probably dab a little bit of that onto it and it'll be fine. But I think this will do what I want. And it's just more so that it's not going to shorten the bottom of that socket. Right, so we'll turn this on. Okay, it's still saying IC11. So that one may not be very good doing it that way. Okay. So we may have to bridge across it like we were going to do originally. Okay. This one may work better if we brought it around the back here to it, rather than if we bent that pin out and around and then soldered onto it to here, rather than going underneath, because it might be making it too high so it doesn't get a very good contact. Hey guys, so as you can see, we are going down the rabbit hole. It was a faulty 4164 I had that was still giving me the error on that one RAM. So I've had a few out of the second-hand ones that I've had. I decided to use those rather than brand new because I didn't want to ruin brand new chips that I know test fine. I have a pile of second-hand ones, so I'm just using those. And I need to make a 4116 and 4164 RAM tester, a good one, so I know I can test them and make sure they are good. Anyway, I'm progressing on with this, and you'll see there's another part coming up, and I'm starting to get to a very fine point to what to do, and you will see that in the next part. So hopefully this has been a insight to you into some of the things that can be wrong, some of the things that can't be wrong. And as I found out, the idea of bridging under the socket for a replacement didn't really work. It made it too high and it wasn't making good contact on the socket below. What I ended up doing is I had a pile of the, as I said, 4164s, and instead of cutting pin 1, I bent it straight up out of the way, and pin 8, I bent it up and I soldered a wire from it to the top of pin 9. So if I want to, I can undo it, put them back, and I still have 64K chips. That's what I've done, and I've made up 8 of them because I think I'm going down that track. Pray for me, guys. Anyway, I hope this has been good and instructional for you and of some help. And hopefully in this third part we can finish this and give it back to the guy. It's been here too long. Anyway, guys, as I always say, have a great day, have a great week, and until we see each other again, ciao.